Fuck! Fuck! Fuck!
Oh, you stupid motherfucker!
You're gonna find me dead! I'm gonna kill myself!
Hit the fucking guy! What the fuck is he doing?
I'm gonna be hanging from the bathroom!
They got the leg!
Don't ask me to do nothing! This is nothing!
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Steel Here podcast, where I'm your host, Kevin Adams, alongside my partner in crime, Jersey Jerry. And Jerry, Don, isn't it fitting? Leave it up to a man named Rudolph to go out and save Christmas for the city of Pittsburgh. I don't even know how they get here or how a man who was buried so down on the depth chart for all of these years goes out and puts on the performance like he did. But I ain't mad at it, Jerry, Don.
No, I'm not mad either. If anybody deserved this type of win, it's Mason Rudolph. I mean, a guy's just been buried on the depth chart for years, was supposed to be Big Ben's successor, never really truly got a full opportunity, got a couple games here and there, but never really got a full opportunity to be QB1. Ben just never retired, just never wanted to retire. So then they draft a quarterback, bring in another quarterback, so he gets buried even more. And I'll tell you what, if anybody deserved it, it was Mason Rudolph. And, he's such a good guy. Deep down, like we've talked in the past, we text and talk through Instagram and stuff throughout the years. He's such a good person. He really is. So I'm super proud of him. Deserves every single minute of it. Played an excellent game. Right reads, great deep balls, didn't turn the ball over, so credit to him.
I mean, no, it was, Jerry, from a quarterback-only standpoint, all the things that you say leading up to that, they're absolutely spot on. Have Steelers fans ridden Mason Rudolph's ass into the dirt, myself included? I'm going to assume the same for you. Yes, we have. We have really beaten him into the ground, no pun intended. Myles Garrett, stuff like that. He's taken a lot of abuse, since he's been in Pittsburgh. I think initially a lot of it had to do with the team comes out. They say that a guy like Mason Rudolph, they have a first-round grade on him. He's Ben's successor. Immediately, that's going to piss off Steelers fans that aren't ready to say goodbye to Ben. He puts all of that stuff behind him. And after, I believe this is 6 seasons in Pittsburgh now, to go out and to put on a performance like that, which, let's keep it all the way 100. That might be the best actual quarterback performance we've seen by a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback dating back to Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, he did everything really the right way. I mean, he missed like 2 deep balls, one of them to Deontay Johnson, the second one threw out of bounds to George Pickens, but excellent throwing the deep ball. And the Steelers didn't even really use play action either.
No, didn't have to a whole lot.
I mean, he really. So he looked good all around. I mean, the arm talent is there. It really is. And maybe he's right. He said like, hey, after all these years sitting on the bench, like what it's taught me is like, hey, have a better IQ, be a better football player. You know what I mean? The intangibles and stuff like that. So I'm sure he's been watching film throughout these years. You always see him on the sideline, like with a tablet. So, hey, maybe Rudolph just, needed some time on the bench and we got a spark and it was huge, and I think what Mike Tomlin did was the right thing. And it was, because it proved it. Like you just couldn't send Mitch back out there. There was just no way you could send Mitch back out there. So I will give some credit to Tomlin. I mean, although it was an easy choice, but at least it was the right choice.
It was the right choice. The only thing I'll say, and I'll lay off of Mike Tomlin this week, we've beaten him into the ground, and now all the reports come out saying that the Steelers are likely going to extend him for an additional 2 years and that he's already looking at roster building for the next 2 seasons. So Jerry and I have discussed that off air. There's not much we can bitch about that. I mean, if that ends up being the case, we're going to be stuck with him for a couple of years. We'll address that as that comes down. Do I think they could have gone, seeing how good Mason Rudolph played? Do I think it was a little bit of misuse by playing Mitch as many tries as they did, or bringing Mitch back this year and extending his contract by another season? Seeing what you had out of Mason Rudolph, I mean, what the fuck are they watching in practice if Mason Rudolph can go out there and play better than Mitch ever has, better than Kenny ever has? And before people are going to say, well, yeah, Kenny played great against the Bengals. Yeah, Kenny did play good against the Bengals, but Kenny has also played bad 20 plus other times. And if you really want to compare, and I'm not saying that Mason Rudolph is the better quarterback for the Steelers of the future, but if you really want to compare statistics of Mason Rudolph starts versus Kenny Pickett starts, Mason Rudolph is the better quarterback if we're just looking at statistically comping them, because he has multiple 2-touchdown games. He has several 100+ passer rating games. You know, what we saw was complete command of the offense.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it. He hit the deep balls, but that's not just what he did very well. He went through his reads. He wasn't just stuck on one read and then tucks his tail and gets happy feet in the pocket. He manipulated the pocket well, stepped up, threw the deep balls very well, would go through. The check down was not the primary target. The check down was more of what you would hope to see out of your quarterback be as what it's supposed to be. The check down, when the other reads aren't there, you find the dump off. He used that perfectly. Jerry, there was a play, though, in that game early on. They're inside the red zone. It's 3rd and 7. And he tucks the ball and he runs and he puts his head down at the line to gain. Yeah. And he fucking bullied for the first down. You saw Mitch the week before, similar situation in the red zone, gets right at the line to gain, slides. Steelers don't get it, end up kicking a field goal. Those types of things are little things that aren't really going to show up on the stat sheet, but Mason did them right on Saturday night against that Bengals team. I really do believe that was the best type of game you could have gotten out of a guy like that. But now it adds an interesting wrinkle moving forward. Do you go back to Kenny Pickett with only 2 games left and they're must-win games, or do you continue to ride the hot hand in Mason Rudolph, knowing now that Tomlin said at the start of the week the ball is in Mason's hands? We will reassess it as the week moves on throughout practice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, there's some people I've seen on like Twitter and Instagram be like, oh well, hey, it's one start. It was a fluke performance from Mason Rudolph. I'll say this. I don't think it was a fluke, because you know how hard it is to sit on the bench for – I mean, he didn't start for like almost 800 days. And then just randomly go out there, have a week, six days to prepare knowing you're the starter, prepare for 6 days, go out there and play as well as you did. I mean – that's pretty tough. So I'm not looking at like a fluke. You know what I mean? Maybe a little bit of luck here and there, sure. But a total fluke? No way. No.
Not especially when we lost 3 games in a row prior to that point. And that was you just can't take that from him.
And this was the lowest point of the Steelers' season, was coming off these 3 games. So, you know, for the offense to rally around him and the defense to play hard for him, offensive line played really good as well. I'll give them credit. They played pretty good. Our secondary didn't play as good. Anyway, that's a conversation for later in the show. But I will say this. It has to be Mason, because, like, hey, number one, look at what the Jaguars are going through with Trevor Lawrence. Like, he's dinged up. He's getting sent out there. They're losing. They're getting embarrassed. You know what I mean? Yep. Playoffs are on the line, and they're just, you know, having them go out there and just stink up the joint. So is Kenny 100% healthy? Probably not. You know, I mean, maybe he will say he's healthy. I'm not sure. Who knows? But, you know, he's only been removed, 20-something days, 20 days?
I mean, he just had surgery 21 days ago as of today.
Yeah, so, like, for them to bring out Kenny would be really tough, because the thing is this. If they bring out Kenny and they realize, oh, shit, like, he's not himself. You know what I mean? He can't even move back there. Okay, you take him out, right? And then put Mason in, and now you have confidence issues. You know what I mean? With Kenny. Then you have drama in the locker room, drama, you know, from different media outlets. Kenny Pickett got benched. For Mason Rudolph, for QB3. Like, it just brings all these type of fucking problems, you know, into the locker room where it's not really needed. Do I think Kenny Pickett is the quarterback of the future for the Pittsburgh Steelers and for what the Steelers want in the future? Yes, I do. They wouldn't have drafted them in that high if it wasn't. But Mason has to start this game. He has to.
Jerry, it's one game. Like, you have to take this thing. There are 2 games left, and we now know all the playoff scenarios. I fucking hate that we have to have this conversation, because I was ready before that Bengals game to admit season's fucking cooked. It's over. And then all these games fall the Steelers' way, and right now we're looking at win out and a Jaguars loss and the Steelers sneak in as the 7th seed.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where it's at.
So all we need to happen is the Jaguars to lose one or the Bills, right?
Yeah, I mean, those are our easiest routes
That's
of
pretty
getting
tough
there.
still, though, right? I mean,
Right.
Jaguars have a light schedule.
Yeah, but you just said the Jaguars are struggling, but Trevor Lawrence is not 100%.
He's definitely not.
So they're struggling. They're 2-5 in their last 7. They're reeling. And so, is there life to it? Do I still think we'll make the playoffs? No, just because, and I'll address that in a minute.
But playoffs any other way or no?
Yeah, there's a few other routes, but I mean, they're much harder. They're much harder.
So we don't even need another Colts loss or another. That's irrelevant.
No, it's irrelevant. At this point, if the Jaguars would lose a game and the Steelers win out, because the last week of the season, the Texans play, it might be the Jags. I don't know, but I know that there's a game that falls that way where one of them is going to take a loss. So we're going to jump one or the other. Yeah, that might be what it is. So one way or another, one of those teams is going to lose. Either the Texans are going to lose or the Colts are going to lose, unless it's a tie. Yeah. So the chance of making the playoffs are higher now than it should be. But when you're looking at just this one game and you have to take this thing week to week, it would be a risk, especially seeing how well Mason just played. Yeah. It would be a risk to put Kenny back out there, even if he say 85 or 90%. At 85 or 90%, do you think you're going to get the type of offensive output you just got out of Mason Rudolph?
No.
I mean, you'd be crazy to think it. It's not as though Kenny has shown us that, really one time, and it was that Bengals game this season. Okay, so I think that's crazy to try and expect that of him. But by the same token, hypothetically say they do go to Seattle. Mason Rudolph plays a pretty good game. The Steelers win the game. At that point, Kenny hasn't played in something like 5 weeks. Are you then going to put the ball back in Kenny's hands on that final week against the Ravens?
I don't think you can. I mean, I don't think you can. And the Steelers are in a weird spot right now, man, because Kenny deep down, even if he's 80%, is going to want the ball, going to want to play.
Yep.
I'm sure he'll be advocating for that. Who knows if Mike Tomlin's decision is going to change later in the week or not? We don't know. He's going to advocate to play. Now, let's say Mason goes out there. Look at both scenarios. They're gonna have a super short lease on Mason Rudolph in Seattle.
More than likely.
So I give it 1 quarter. Honestly, people could say a half. I don't even give it a half. I give it a quarter. If Mason Rudolph goes out there and struggles for a whole entire quarter, and Kenny Pickett is active, Kenny Pickett's coming in the game.
I would agree. I think it's easier for them to go that route. I think it's easier for them to start Mason Rudolph and pull him than it is to start Kenny and bench Kenny for the reasons that you said.
Exactly.
Now, by the same token, he plays great, though. He plays great. We beat Seattle. Kenny's not playing against the Ravens. No. And if it's another must-win game and the Steelers end up winning that game and they make the playoffs, then your quarterback one, Kenny Pickett, the guy you wanted to have, play in the playoffs in his second year, are you going to give the ball back to him in the wild card round when he hasn't played football in 6-7 weeks?
That's a tough decision. I don't think Mike Tomlin will. I don't think he will. I mean,
I don't know how you could.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can, because you have a guy who maybe just came in and, it's got a big spark with the offense and he's playing good. Who knows? This Seattle game is going to tell a lot, This Seattle game is going to tell us, is the season over? It's going to tell us who is going to be going into next year as quarterback one. Because if Mason Rudolph, I'll tell you this, if Mason Rudolph wins out and he goes to the playoffs, and even if he loses in the playoffs, there's a quarterback one battle in Pittsburgh next year.
There should be. And so here's where it is. Has Kenny done enough? And people are like, oh, well, Big Ben, the Steelers had benched Big Ben, when he was healthy and they played Landry Jones ahead of him. They did. That's true. That was also in week 5. That was not in week 15 or 16 or 17 when the season's on the line. Because let's put it to you this way. If a franchise had their 100% bona fide QB1 and they were in this situation, there would never be the questions of, well, do you continue to play the backup? Absolutely not. As soon as your QB1 is cleared and ready to go, he plays. Now, the fact that Tomlin, they asked Tomlin today in his interview, Coach, if Kenny is cleared to play, is he going to be the starter? And he said, his exact quote was, I'm not going to deal in those hypotheticals right now. So that's not even them willing to say that if he is cleared by the end of this week, if he's medically cleared, that they're going to give him the ball back. And I think that leads to exactly what you're saying. If Mason does go out there and he plays great, and these are all very, very tall asks.
Yeah, I mean,
but if he goes out there,
Seattle's a tough place to play, dude. Don't get it twisted.
Without a doubt. And their season's on the line too.
Exactly. Exactly.
So if he does go out there and he balls and they win that game, and then he goes out and he beats the Ravens somehow, I don't see how you go into next season definitively saying, okay, Kenny Pickett is our QB1. As I don't care if he's drafted first overall, it doesn't matter. What matters is results on the field. And what you just saw out of Mason Rudolph was legitimate quarterback play. Like we haven't seen it in so fucking long that when you do see it, it's very noticeable.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he moved the pocket well. Like, Jerry, the one thing that I gripe about Kenny is he gets happy feet. He gets rattled in there. He spins out of pockets. He makes those mistakes. You did not see that out of Mason Rudolph. And to me, that is what the quarterback position is. Don't drop your eyes, look downfield, move through your progressions, and find the open guy. Yeah. And he did that. So I just think it would be crazy that after 25 starts of seeing Kenny Pickett not ever look very good, and you see Mason Rudolph come in after being buried on the depth chart all season and last season as well. He goes out there and puts together a game like that. I think, yeah, you're right. There should be at least a debate on who is the Steelers quarterback if they just go into next season with those two.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the big reason for Kenny, like, his pocket awareness and stuff like that, I'm sure it has to do with, listen, this is the NFL. Guys are a lot bigger. They're a lot faster. They're a lot stronger. Offensive line at the beginning of the year played really, really bad. There were some games where they played really bad. He got sacked a bunch, got hit a lot. He's been hurt a lot. I'm sure that
concussed several times.
Yeah, so I'm sure that has to do with moving around, spinning out, trying to extend the plays when he shouldn't extend plays and whatnot to get out of there. But yeah, Mason had really great command back there, man. He really did. I still, there is a world I still think where Kenny goes out there and plays Sunday and starts the game.
And here's the problem. If he does, Jerry, and he falls on his face and they lose because of it, that's one way you can really, really, really start to make issues in the locker room.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. And, then, the fans, Tomlin,
the noise is way louder then.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Then, Kenny goes out there, he plays, doesn't look good, they lose the game. Season's definitely probably over. And
it's over.
And then what confidence does he have? It's got to be tough for Kenny right now. I try to look at everything from all different angles, and people say, "Oh, he's just a Kenny Pickett truther and whatnot." Listen, Kenny has not played great at all this year. Did he win us some games? Sure. Was there some games, I think, during that 3-game stretch where, he didn't play 2 of them that I think we could have won? Yeah, I do. But I will say this, hey, man, it's got to be tough for a guy, who gets drafted that high, is the franchise quarterback, and then has to go out there and watch the QB3 pretty much play better than he had all year. So that's got to be tough. I'm sure that's weighing on him. So I'm just trying to look at things from all different types of angles. But with all that said, you got a spark from Mason Rudolph. How long this spark's going to last, who knows? Hopefully.
I know, but I think you have to wait and see. I genuinely think you have to play it out and see.
I think you have to, because I don't think Kenny is 100%. But like I said before, he will be advocating to get the ball. He will be advocating to play. That's just the type of person he is. You know what I mean?
Right. Something else that they did Saturday night, Jerry, that was a big spark to the team and a spark to people that likely needed it. You saw George Pickens have a career day, 4 catches, 195 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we said a week ago on this show, the guy is a fucking head case. George Pickens is absolutely a head case. Yeah. I mean, and to go out there, and we said that he probably should be benched or sat down. He needs to be punished in some capacity. We said all of those things, but we did say that if he had a quarterback that would actually throw him the ball and give him chances, I think he would be a fine enough teammate. I still have issues with him. I still don't think what he did is acceptable. And at this point, I don't think he took blame for it. If you heard the things that he said after the fact, blaming the reporters, people that don't play, he had a million excuses other than, hey, I'll be better. I fucked up.
Yeah.
But to go out there and then have a game like that after, not being benched, it's like rewarding, poor behavior. I think that's enabling him a little bit. However, Mason gave him chances to make plays, and George Pickens made plays. Sometimes I think even if he's not making plays, if you at least give him chances to make them, I think that alone would keep a guy like him happy.
Oh, 100%. Listen, George is an all-time weirdo, man. I mean, you follow him on Instagram. He's a weird dude, bro. And from some stories that we've heard, that I don't think I'd ever share publicly, he's a very, very weird cat. He is. And the thing about a guy like that is you got to keep guys like that happy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You do.
Yep.
And listen, did he make some big plays? Yes, he did. Now, he has to come out there this week, and I'm not saying he has to repeat the same exact, stat sheet, but you got to play hard still. You know what I mean? It can't be a 1 week thing. You shut up the critics, and then boom, all the way now next week you're like shit the bed again, and show no effort. Like you can't do that.
And you can't do it if you have a down week. If you're not getting the ball as much, you can't do it. That's where, yes, we know he's capable of that type of football. Yeah. For me, it's going to come down to, is he also capable of putting it together on the field and helping the team win whenever it's not him in the end zone?
Exactly.
Okay, so I think that's a big part of it. But I can't take it away from him, Jerry. He's a monster. Oh, yeah. That guy is genuinely a monster. That's why I say if we had elite quarterback play, that guy would be an absolute demon out there for us.
And also, dude, I will if the Steelers blow it up, who knows how the season's going to turn out. If they lose and lose bad, and there's rumors about blowing the team up, don't get it twisted. George Pickens will be a first round trade. You'll get a first rounder for a guy like that. Well,
he's talented.
I dude, he when you watch the media and from what people post, other players, other cornerbacks post on IG and shit like that, and Twitter about George is dude, he may not be the fastest person, but he is so fucking hard to guard because he's just so athletic. His hands are great. His feet, that catch was that brought me back to AB. That's there's very few guys in the NFL that can make plays like that. And George making that type of play in his second year is special. It really is.
Again, but the balls were perfect. I mean, that play he makes where he gets his feet down, and that's 3rd and 15. The left sideline, Mason steps up right. Mason is right on the hip of Mason Cole, and he just drops a bread basket. That could not have been a better ball. I don't care who throws it. That is a dime. And so again, he took the chances when he had to take the chances. But right from the opening game, he throws that perfect slant to GP, and GP house calls it, man.
That's because it was in rhythm. In rhythm, he gets the
let him a little bit. He hits him in stride, and you let those guys do stuff after the catch with their actual foot talent. That's the type of stuff that you can see. So I don't think that George Pickens is going to have the last of his blowups, but if you can continue to feed him like this, it might minimize how many of those blowups you have.
Definitely. This is definitely not the last. It'll happen again, maybe next year and whatnot. I mean, who knows? Maybe this year. Who knows? I'll tell you one thing. George Pickens next week is going to be really, really in for it because they got some good corners, man. They got some fucking good corners. And another interesting matchup next week is going to be DK versus Joey Porter. That's going to be fun. That's going to be
prime time. I think Joey Porter Jr. is legitimately the real deal. And we've said it for weeks now, but man, you see what he does out there when they leave him in man press coverage.
That's what they have to do, man.
Right. You can't, he shows issues when you have him in zone coverage. When the Steelers are in zone, you'll see he sometimes loses where he's supposed to be, gives up big plays and things of that nature. But when he's in actual man press coverage, he's right in the hip pocket. And I think that they need to figure out either how to get another man press corner. That way they can play a little bit more man press across the board, or they need to figure out a way to have him automatically blanket opposing teams' number one wide receivers and then scheme the rest of the defense without that included.
That's what they have to do because hey, when Joey Porter is one-on-one with any big-time receiver he's played this year, he's done really fucking good. Really.
Right. We've never walked away saying, oh, my God, Joey Porter Jr. is a liability for us out there.
No, never once. And I'm sure there'll be games throughout his career where he gets exposed here and there, but, dude, he's a really fucking good cornerback. I want to see him on DK every fucking play, in his face, pressing him, and you got to scheme up, like you said, the defense to something different. Let Joey Porter handle his business one-on-one with their best receiver and then scheme the whole defense in a different way. I will say this. The Steelers are very thin at safety, very thin at linebacker. It could be a long day. It could be a real long day, which I'm really nervous for. Minka's not coming back, right?
Well, Tomlin said today, he said he'll be limited at the beginning of the week. So we'll see. If he's limited at the beginning of the week, I would lean he probably doesn't play. If he plays, though, I think that our chances go up, quite significantly. Yeah. However, I will say, Jerry, Pat Pete played great at the safety spot on Saturday.
He played great. He played really fucking good. He had a really, really good game, man. So maybe that's where Pat needs to be, at that safety.
A big concern is exactly what you said, though. They have Jackson Smith and Jigba. They have DK.
Yeah.
They have Tyler Lockett. They're gonna throw the ball, which for me is how they're gonna score. I mean, the Seahawks are gonna score when we play them. So if they're gonna score again, I think that's another reason you have to play Mason Rudolph, only because he's not rusty. He's gonna be coming in there after putting up 30, 34 points or whatever the Steelers scored on Saturday night. Whereas you would be asking the Steelers and Kenny to try and win the same way they won games earlier in the year under Kenny. And that's like 17-14, 20-17. I think you would be asking for quite a lot out of the Steelers to try and win a game like that, bringing Kenny in off of 4 weeks no play.
Yeah, no, I think Mike Tomlin at the end of the day is going to make the right decision and start Mason Rudolph. But I will say there is still a slim chance that he just gives in later in the week and says, you know what, fucking, you want the ball, here it is. Yeah, I mean, you've seen it like Mike Tomlin. Okay. Ultimate Players Coach. There's a clip out there of Big Ben, and they're on the sidelines talking, and I think it was against
right before the kickoff of the game. Yes, it was the Patriots game.
Patriots. He's like, Big Ben's like, Mike Tomlin says he wants the ball, and Big Ben's like, you sure? They got the number one defense out there. He's like, yeah, but I got you. Mike Tomlin is like the ultimate players coach, believes in his guys, trusts his guys. I think Mike Tomlin trusts Kenny Pickett enough to maybe later in the week say, you know what? You want the ball? Here it is. Go show me you want. Dude, I wouldn't put it past him, bro. I wouldn't put it past him, man.
Oh, it'd just be such a slippery slope.
I know it, but the thing is, like, dude, I mean, you've seen it like last year with the Dolphins game, how we lose that game. Kenny throws a pick to seal it, and we lose, and they're walking back, and Mike Tomlin's like, keep your head up. There's going to be better days ahead and shit like that. Like, dude, I think Kenny, Mike Tomlin has never really talked poorly about Kenny Pickett. He's never really said, oh, he's the reason we lost this game, shit like that. Hey, the only thing he'll say, like, Kenny doesn't turn the ball over, so he can never really say, oh, we lost because the quarterback turned the ball over or we turned the ball over. He's never been able to say those type of things. So I don't know, man. There's still a feeling that Kenny Pickett could get the ball Sunday to start. My take is this, and I'll give you my honest take. I think the Steelers come out a little slow. Mason Rudolph comes out, and he might be decent or whatnot. Maybe he turns the ball over once. Who knows? I hope he doesn't. I think after the first quarter, you will see Kenny Pickett Sunday.
Oh boy, I would hate to see that.
Because I think it's going to be tough for the Steelers to go out there in Seattle, as a dog. Their defense is dinged up really fucking bad.
Seattle's defense sucks too, though. Yeah, I mean, quite literally, their run defense is dog shit. Yeah. Seattle's run defense is terrible, and the Steelers had their corners are good. Their corners are good. Their run defense is weak. If we look like we looked on Saturday night against the Bengals, the run game was also very good. Now, a lot of times, good run game also is tied to good quarterback play. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to run the ball when teams respect that the quarterback is going to beat you deep and over the top. They play a little lighter in the box. You have the ability to get out there and bully them. I think Najee had a nice game. I think Jaylen Warren had a very nice game. Yeah. I think the offensive line had a very nice game as a whole.
Yeah.
So I think that their plan, regardless of who the quarterback is, should be run heavy. Yeah. They should try to win it on the ground, which takes some of that crowd out of that, because you're talking about the loudest stadium in football. You want to take the 12th man out of the game. You fucking squeeze the air out of the football. You run it down their throats. And I think I really do believe that that's going to end up having to be the Steelers' game plan if they want to win. I don't think that you can rely on a high-flying offense as far as that's concerned. However, I still just want to go with the guy that showed us he could put up 30 points, Jerry. Yeah. We don't ever put up 30 points. Yeah. You put it up, you have my attention.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you're spot on. I think you're right. All I'm saying is I think there's a chance Kenny plays.
Another thing I think there's a chance of is I think that the defense, the pass rush especially, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, they have a chance to make some plays on Sunday as well against Seattle. And Jerry Don, at this point, is there any doubt that TJ Watt should be the defensive player of the year?
No, I don't think there is. But like, you look at the lines on Vegas, and Myles Garrett's still the favorite. When's the last time
Micah Parsons is now plus 100 to win the defensive player of the year. Myles Garrett is plus 155 and TJ Watt is plus 300.
That's crazy. That's insane.
It's fucking pathetic. It's unacceptable.
It's insane, dude. It's really crazy.
TJ leads in sacks, tackles for loss, tackles, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, quarterback hits, passes defensed, interceptions, and touchdowns versus those guys listed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's leading them in all of those categories.
He was doing the same thing with Aaron Donald 2 years back, 3 years back, whatever it was, and they gave it to Aaron Donald. I mean,
it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. Like, what is the criteria then? He has 17 sacks, 16 tackles for loss, 33 quarterback hits, 58 tackles, 8 pass breakups, which is just insane for an edge rusher, 4 forced fumbles, 3 fumbles recoveries, 1 interception, and the touchdown. The other 2, their stats look damn near identical. 13 sacks for Myles Garrett, 16 tackles for loss, 26 quarterback hits, 39 tackles, 3 pass breakups, 4 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, no interceptions, no touchdowns. You go to Micah Parsons, 13 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, 30 quarterback hits, 53 tackles, 2 breakups, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, no interceptions, no touchdowns. Yeah. TJ is dominating them in almost every single one of those categories. He has damn near twice the amount of tackles as Myles Garrett, and he's beating them by 4 sacks.
Yeah, I do think it'll come down to a little bit of team. Like, the Browns are playing really fucking good. Their defense is really fucking good. And the Cowboys are, they're up there in the NFC. So, like, I don't know, like, maybe they think about, like, how valuable is TJ Watt to the team if they're losing games to teams who are 2-8. You know what I mean?
Right. So, I think that's a big part of it, is that they look at that and they know that the Steelers are below those 2 teams. Yeah. And it's hard to give the best defensive player in the world to a guy who's on a team that might not even make the playoffs. Exactly. Regardless, the product on the field, he is the best defensive player in the world now.
Oh yeah, 100%. So we'll see, man. We'll see. They got a tough week ahead, man. I'm really hoping that they go out there and win this game, man. It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a gritty type of game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring, really. But Geno Smith, he's not incredible. He's obviously beatable. He's not a superstar.
We've beaten him before. Yeah. We've beaten him before.
Like, he's not some superstar back there. You know what I mean? So
it's not like the Seahawks are world beaters either. I mean, they're fucking clawing, hanging on by the skin of their teeth the same as we are right now.
Exactly.
So it's not like the Steelers are not outmatched. I mean, they're 3.5 point dogs. That's nothing crazy. That's still pretty much a coin flip.
No, Mike Tomlin usually wins those games too when they're like 2 or 3 point dogs.
And that's, what, something that pisses me off, man, is that's maybe the best performance we've seen from the offense, from the defense, and from the special teams this season. Why is it always that the Steelers get to this position where there's a month left, the back's against the wall, all the outside noise, man, everybody's calling for Tomlin's head, trade him, fire him, change it. Ryan Clark is saying the things that we've said for years. The Steelers need to move on from Mike Tomlin. All this stuff starts swirling, and that's what they need in order to go out and put their best game together. Yeah. So, like, for me, that's why I get so pissed off about Mike Tomlin and the things that he does, is because why does it have to get to that point before he figures out how to get through to the team, or before the team starts to listen and plays football the right way?
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, dude, we're always in this spot where we're relying on other teams to lose when all they had to do was handle fucking business against bad teams for fucking 3 straight weeks, man.
We beat one of those shitty teams for the last 3 weeks, man, and we'd be in the driver's seat to make this thing.
I know.
Like, that's why, like, I get it. He wins those games, but I can't just take my finger off of his throat, because he has to win those games because of the shit that's led up to getting us to those games. Yeah. So as a fan, I still get pissed off about, like, we do this every year. If we just would have won one of those games, we did it last year. If we would have beat the Patriots, or we would have beat the Jets, or we would have beat the Dolphins, one of those games we get in. This year, if we would have beat the Patriots, or we would have beat the Jaguars, or the Cardinals, or the Colts, we could have gotten in. It's just always if we would have, and instead of I wish that we would be able to just say, we're going to handle those games. The Steelers will be right in.
Exactly. Yeah, we're never able to say that though.
Because you know something else that fucking sucks? The Ravens are likely going to be the 1 seed in the AFC. If they beat the Dolphins this week, the Ravens are going to be the 1 seed. Okay, and a lot of Steelers fans are saying we want to see the Ravens be the 1 seed because then maybe they don't play their starters in that final week because the Ravens are rolling right now, man. That is as much of a tall task to get into the playoffs as anything would be going into Baltimore and beating them. Yeah. However, you have to realize this. They're going to have the bye. Why would anybody believe that they would sit their starters in that final game of the season knowing they have a bye week the next week?
Exactly.
They don't want to have 2 weeks off.
Exactly. That's the thing. You know, they're not going to want to have 2 weeks off. You know, they're not going to want to do that.
That's huge. So if that's the case, they're going to play their starters. So for people that think, oh, if we can just get by Seattle, the Ravens will have it locked up and we're just going to squeak in. I don't know about that. No. I think they would still love to play spoilers to the Steelers. Why wouldn't they? Yeah. We've beaten them, 6 of the last 7 times. They want to fucking beat us. And B, I just think that from a rust standpoint, you've seen in the past teams that take off the final week and then have the bye week.
Rusty.
Yeah. It happened to the Colts the year the Steelers beat them. Yeah. They sat their starters and then they had the bye week. Peyton Manning and the offense comes out and they're a little bit slow, so that's not, I think Harbaugh's a smart enough coach. He wouldn't do that to them. Maybe they only play a half, whatever the case, but Christ, man, a half of that team right now could put up some damage to the Steelers. This is a really tall task that the Steelers have right now, but I mean, I was fully committed to the idea that the season was over, and now I watched those games all day yesterday, all day on Christmas, and it's like, Christmas Eve, we see the things that go our way. It's like somehow this team is still in it going into the final week of the season if they can beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, no, dude, it's same position every year. It's just insane what the Steelers do to their fan base year after year. It's like it's the same story over and over again. You know what I mean?
It is. It's depressing. Like it's grueling more than anything. This is grueling. We know in December it's just tight assholes the whole rest of the way.
Yeah, 100%. I will say this: there's a lot of people like out there saying like, "Oh, who the fuck wants to see the Steelers in the playoffs and whatnot?" I get it. The Steelers haven't been like great or playing like good football, but I mean, why wouldn't you want to see a team like that in the playoffs? You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't give a fuck what those people say. Like, I don't care. You make the playoffs, you deserve to be there. This is a fucking grind. We aren't a very good football team by any means, but if we make the playoffs, and especially having beat Seattle and Baltimore to get there, you've earned it. You deserve to be there. I don't give a shit how they got there, strength of schedule. None of that stuff matters to me. They got into the playoffs. Yeah. Now, could they get blown out? Absolutely. Yeah. They absolutely could get blown out. And I still, again, gun to my head, I don't think that they'll make the playoffs. But, to say that a team like that doesn't deserve to be there, I mean, you can kiss my ass. There are a lot of soft teams in the AFC this season, a lot of teams that I don't think are very good this year that you could make a case that maybe they don't deserve to be in the playoffs either.
100%.
Something that is nerve-wracking, Jerry, is the betting is now going to come down to the final 2 weeks for you and I, though.
Yeah, 100%.
So to recap last week's betting, Jerry Don goes for... He took the Steelers plus the 2.5. I took under 38.5. Jerry won. So on the season, Jerry is now 8-8 on the year. I am 7-9. I am 1 game back. This week, Jerry, the over-under is 41.5. The Steelers are getting 3.5. What do you got this week as far as your bet?
I'm going to take... I think this is a big Jaylen Warren type of game. I think this is a big Jaylen Warren type of game. Gets to expose them, beats them with his speed. I'm going to take a Warren touchdown. I'm going to take a Jaylen Warren touchdown. I think he's going to get a lot of catches out of the backfield. I think they trust him enough to give him the ball in some crucial moments. So I'm going to take him. I'm going to take him to score.
Jaylen Warren, anytime touchdown. And let's just say one thing about Jaylen Warren real quick here. It had come out where he didn't block, George Pickens didn't block for him on that goal line play against the Colts. Okay. And then you didn't hear from Jaylen Warren for a few days. And then when he is finally asked about the question, he says, I talked to George. I heard his side of it. And I just told him I would have blocked for you in that same scenario. Yeah. And George comes out and replies to him and says, in the future, I'll make sure that I block for you. I understand. Yeah. And then you see on, inside the 5 on Saturday night, there's a handoff to Calvin Austin left side, and Jaylen Warren absolutely dumps the linebacker on his wallet. The guy is fucking parallel in the air, just dumps him on his wallet.
Yeah, that was fun.
Jaylen Warren plays football how Pittsburgh Steelers should play football. reckless abandon. I fucking love that guy. He is quickly becoming one of my favorite players on the entire football team.
Same here, man. I mean, just a guy who just doesn't take a play off ever.
Selfless football player, Jerry. 100%, always blocks great, catches the ball great. He's always going to do something special if you get the ball in space. He's hard to bring down. He just plays the game the right way. And I absolutely love that about Jaylen Warren. So Jaylen Warren, anytime touchdown scorer, I can just support that. Yeah. I, this week, am going to take the Steelers plus the 3.5. I think the Seahawks are a beatable football team. I think Seattle is very hard to play in, but I see it being a field goal game one way or the other. Mm-hmm. I think the 3.5, I could win on the hook. I'm going to take the 3.5. Plus, if we lose and I lose the bet this season, I'm fine losing, still believing in the Steelers to win the game. Like I'm fine if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way. I think it'll be a tight game. I really do.
It's going to be a good football game, I would hope. And that's why I really just want to see Mason Rudolph. And also I want to see Mason Rudolph just because of the chaos that it's going to create. I want to see Mason Rudolph go out there and play a great football game. Anybody that wants to see Mason Rudolph not play well because they're a Kenny Pickett supporter, you ultimately are choosing the player before the team then. Because in my opinion, you should want us to have 3 great quarterbacks. You want to see Mason Rudolph go out there and fucking ball. Yeah. And if that's the case, then you have a good problem. You have a guy that could be your quarterback and a guy you drafted in the first round to be your quarterback. Yeah. It's always good to have good quarterbacks versus having 3 bums. Exactly. I mean, so let's keep that into perspective here as well. Jerry, shout out the boys at Zed.
Yes.
It was they are the best again. Check out this Central Division, Jerry. This was many years ago. You're talking 1994, I believe. The Steelers were still in 94. Jerry Dawn is born. The Steelers win the Central Division. Yeah. They have the best vintage merch in the game. You guys absolutely have to check out Zed's. It's Shop Zed's in the South Side. Huge fans of what Jerry and I do. They're good guys. You have to go check them out. Jerry, is there anything about the game that you still want to discuss?
No, I think we covered it all. You know, I think it's gonna be tough to have like a repeat performance like that, where it's like 30 plus and shit like that. But
you think they win? You think they win on Sunday?
Yeah, I think they do. I think this is what the Steelers do. I think it's going to come down to the last week of the year. I think they're going to win against Seattle, and I think it comes down to the last week of the year, and I just think we don't get in.
So Jerry thinks that we win. So you're saying we don't get in? Why? Because we don't beat the Ravens?
I don't think we would beat the Ravens. No, I don't think this team. I mean, it all depends because like you don't know like exactly what Harbaugh's going to do. You know what I mean? How limited some of his stars are going to be. You just don't know. You know.
Well, let's say it's starters, and we figure out whatever Mason or Kenny ends up being.
Listen, I have a little bit of faith that they can, we own Baltimore as of late. So sure, there's some faith there that we could beat them, but like a team that hot, that defense is fucking lights out.
They're very good.
Lamar is fucking playing unreal this year. I don't think they would go into Baltimore and beat them starters versus starters,
I think the Ravens are going to the Super Bowl. It pains me to say. Somebody asked me at the terrible tailgate, who makes it out of the AFC. I just think it's the Ravens. I think as a complete team, they might be one of the best 2 teams in football, and they just dismantled the Niners in San Francisco. Which is hard to do. And I mean, they fully shit on them. Yeah. So I think the Ravens are a very good team. They likely make it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I agree with you. I think that the Steelers end up beating the Seahawks. I think it comes down to the final week. I just don't see us getting in for, either things don't fall our way or we don't beat the Ravens or both of those things. But isn't it just like the Steelers to just get us to this point? Isn't it just like Mike Tomlin to get us to this point, man? Like this is who he is. He's the king of this right here, of getting us right close to the finish line, and then that ends up being just enough to continue to bring him back.
Yeah. Mediocre Mike.
Mediocre Mike. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys. Last week was an incredible episode. We could not be more thankful. I want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas, but genuinely from the bottom of Jerry and I's hearts, we appreciate that you guys support this show.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is great.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see, I've been reading some comments lately, and it's, really heartwarming how many people actually love our show. So it's awesome.
Right. It really is. We appreciate it. We don't always say the right shit on the show. Jerry and I don't always say the right shit. We're never going to say the right shit because we're fans. Fans say crazy off the wall shit sometimes. That's just how it goes. But we appreciate that you guys love it.
No doubt. No doubt. Well,
We'll see you guys here
big week. We'll see
next week. Massive week, Jerry Dawn. I mean, I didn't expect us to be here, and the fact that we are,
Yep.
It's going to make for a very stressful new year.
Oh yeah, I mean, we might be by the end of next week just talking about blowing up the team, starting over again. Who knows?
Yeah, let's not. This is just 1 week of reprieve because they won.
Yeah.
Had they lost that Bengals game, I would have had the pitchforks back out. I'm not off of that just because we won, Jerry Don.
No. We'll see what happens. Should be a good game.
Should be a good game. We appreciate you guys. Happy New Year to you. Enjoy the time with your friends, with your family. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you here next week.
See you next week.
Later, Jerry.
We're here. We're still here.
We are still here.